Hello everyone, welcome to the CS Revelation. In this video, we're going to go through a practice of classes and objects topic. Now, if you guys have not taken a look at the classes and objects lecture, there will be a link below in the description. Feel free to go over that lecture. It gives you a rundown and a description, an explanation of what classes are and what objects are. And these are four main bullet points that I took from that lecture. A Java program consists of one or more classes, and a class is an abstract description of an object. It is also known as a blueprint for an object. And usually an object is known as an instance of a class. So you instantiate a class, and the result of instantiating a class is an object. A class may have many instances, of course, so you can create as many objects as you want as instances of a certain class. So let's start with our requirement here. So the requirement is asking to create a Java application that is called Word project. I already done that. Next thing is that we want to create a Java class named Word, and we need to implement all of its members. Remember, we said that a class is composed of all these properties, actions, and constructors. So the properties are really these local variables that we create, class variables, and the constructors are also members of the class that we use them to instantiate that class. So we can create as many constructors as we want. However, the constructor's name must be the same name as the class, right? So if your class name is Word, then the constructor name must be Word. And you use these constructors to instantiate these classes, to construct objects. And also, the actions that the objects will be able to perform are also called the methods. So the methods are going to be those actions. All right. So in this description here, we have the list of variables, and we have the constructors and the methods that we need to create. So let's take a look at the methods here. So we have a getWord, which returns a string property of the Word object. And there is getFirstLetter. The job of this method is to return the first letter of the Word object, and getLastLetter gets you the last letter of the Word object. And removeFirstLetter, it basically going to remove the first letter or the first character of that word permanently, of course. And removing the last letter does remove the last character of that word. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a class. So to implement this, we need to go to our source package. We're going to right click, click new, and then Java class. And we're going to call this Java class as we are told. We're going to call it Word, and then just simply click finish. So now we have another class. I have two classes here. The class that contains my main method, which is called the same name as my project, and the new class that I just created. And this class, I named it Word as per the instructions. The next thing we want to do is really to include three components, three types of components. First, we need the properties, right? So first we need the properties, and then second, we're going to need our constructors. And third, we're going to have our actions. Okay, so let's start with the properties here. We only have one property here, that is myWord, which is of type string. So I'm simply going to say string word. Okay, so that is myWord actually. So myWord is my first property. That's the only property that we are being told to create. Let's move to the constructors. The constructors, we have two of them. There's a default constructor. So a constructor must be declared public. It has no return type. So it is public Word. And my constructor here does not take any parameters, and it does not return anything because its job is just to construct these objects. So I'm only going to make it do this. I'm going to make it set my word to a blank text. My second constructor, my second option is also the same name. So I can have as many constructors as I want as long as they have different signatures and implementations. So my word is going to take a string. So when you're trying to construct, let's say, an object out of this class word and using this constructor, it will prompt you to give a string variable to use it for the construction. So I'm going to say my word, my variable word is going to be equal to what's going to be supplied by the users as, or passed by the users as a parameter value here. So I created my two constructors based on this requirement. So this is a default constructor, and this is a constructor that takes one string parameter. Next thing is to implement my actions. Actions means methods. All these methods are public, so it's going to be public. And here, the first method is of type string, return type string, and the name is getWord. So string getWord. Okay, so what is the job of this method? Let's see the description. So the job of this method is that it will return the string property of the word object. So that means it's going to be returning whatever the word is. So I'm going to say return my word, right? So that's what this method has as a task. The next method is getFirstLetter. It returns a char. That is the character, the first character of the word. So public, the return type here is char, and that is getFirstLetter. Okay, it does not take any parameters, but it will return. How do we get the first character of a string? It's going to be the string name, right? My word. That is the string variable that contains my string value. I'm going to use the .char at function. And that is because the first character in a string is at index 0. So I'm basically saying return the character at index 0 of this variable. So that's going to give me the first letter. So if I have, let's say, a string, let's say hello, right? This H is located at index 0. So here I'm saying return the character at index 0 of this variable value. Okay, so that's going to take care of getting the first letter. Then we're going to implement getLastLetter, similar to that, to the first letter. So it's public. It's also returning a character. So getLastLetter. And it does not take any parameters. However, it will return. How do we get the last letter of a string? So my string name is my word, right? That's the variable that contains my string. How do I get the last letter? For that, I really need to use also the char at, but at a specific index. So usually the last index in a string is the length minus 1. So I'm going to say my word dot length, right? So it is dot length minus 1. So again, let's go back to the same example as hello. So this is hello. This is the index value. So let me type the index value. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So H is located at index 0, E is located at index 1, L is located at index 2, this L is located at index 3, and this O is located at index 4. Now, if I want to get the first character, I say the character located at index 0. But because I don't know the word that the user is going to give me, I don't know really the index of the last character. However, I can determine that by using the following code. So I can basically say, this is whatever the word is, just go ahead and find the length for this. The length for this is basically the number of characters. So that's 5 characters here. And I'm going to subtract 1. And 5 minus 1 is basically going to give me the upper bound index. That means the last character's index. So that's 5 minus 1, that is 4. That's why I'm using this code. Okay, so now that is how you get the last letter. The next thing is to remove the first letter permanently, of course. So this is a public void remove first letter, right? So we're going to remove the first letter. Does not matter what that letter is, but we're just going to remove it. With that, I'm actually going to override myWord with a new value that does not contain the first letter. So I'm going to say myWord, my current word, is now going to equal to myWord, right? So if I want to exclude the first letter, then I'm going to get a substring that does not contain that first letter. So I'm going to say substring 1, right? Remember, substring method returns a portion of a string. So the substring method here is going to return a portion from myWord, but it only starts at index 1. That means it will exclude the character at index 0. Therefore, now we're saying that we are excluding the first letter, and that means we removed it. So this, if the string is hello, the result of this is basically this portion, which is starting at index 1. That means ELLO. And the result, this ELLO, is going to be now overriding the existing value in myWord. So myWord now is going to contain this portion instead of hello. Okay, so that is the idea. The next thing is to remove the last letter. So again, it's public void remove last letter. And this does not take any parameters. However, it's going to remove the last letter. How do we extract the last letter? How do we remove the last letter? Same thing, we're going to use the substring method. So myWord, we're going to override it with a new value. That is going to be myWord dot substring. However, the parameters for the substring here, we want to start at 0, means we want to include the character from the beginning of the string, means we're going to include all the characters. However, we want to exclude the last one. So therefore, we should extract a portion that starts at 0 and ends right before the last index. For that, I'm going to do a myWord dot length minus 1. Okay. So now this is going to get me a substring that starts at the character 0 and ends right before the length minus 1. Means if we are talking about the string value, the word hello, right? Again, we're using hello. It's going to start at index 0 because H is at index 0, but it will get to the length minus 1. So what is the length minus 1? Here we have the length is 5. The length minus 1 is 4. However, the substring method really does not go to up to, does not include the character at the upper bound. So it will technically give you the characters from 0 to the length minus 2, right? But when using the substring method in Java, you really need to give the upper bound, but it won't include the character at that upper bound. Okay, so now the next part of the assignment is asking us to create an object. So we're going to go to the main method in the Word project. So we go to the main method. This is the main method. And we're going to instantiate the Word class by creating obj Word, right? So obj Word is an object that we're going to create as an instance of my word class. However, before I do that, I actually want to prompt the users to give me a word so I can construct my object with it. So I'm going to use a Java scanner. So scanner scan equals new scanner. And that is system.in scanner. Okay. So now I'm using the scanner. So I'm going to import the java.util.scanner. And now I'm going to prompt the users. So I'm going to say system out print. Okay, so I'm going to prompt the users to enter a word, right? So enter a word. And I'm going to collect that word in a string variable. So I'm going to say string user input. I'm going to call my variable. User input is equal to through the scanner. So scan dot next, right? So because we only want word, so we're going to use the dot next method. All right. So what does that do? Let me run it. All it does is just going to prompt me for a word, like you see here. So I'm going to type a word, say hello, and that's it. So it took the word that I typed. All right, so I see that I need a space here. The next thing really is to create the object now. So to instantiate the class word, we need to mention the name of the class first. So the name of the class is word. Then we're going to give a name to our object. So it's obj word. And I'm going to say equals new word. Now, this part here is deciding on what constructor are we going to use to construct this object. If you choose the default constructor, which is this one, the first constructor, it's basically just going to create a word. However, it's empty. There's no text in it. However, if you decide to use the second constructor, it will prompt you to give a value to set to this property, right? So let's use the second one. And we're going to actually pass the user input as the value, right? So we're constructing this object, which is an instance of the class word, and we're using the constructor that takes a string parameter, okay? The next thing that we are being asked to do is to make this object that we just created invoke all the accessible methods, right? So how do we really determine the accessible methods? It is by, this is the name of the object, and when you use a dot operator, you will have access to all the accessible methods. Notice now you see myWord, which is a string property. Then you have the getFirstLetter, getLastLetter, getWord, removeFirstLetter, removeLastLetter. Those are the ones that we created, and some other ones that come by default with it. Okay, so maybe we could create something meaningful. Let's first output a message saying okay, so let's say you entered the word, right? So like just to make it more interesting. And then we're gonna say plus, how do I get the word that the users have entered? Of course, using the object. So I'm going to mention the object name, which is obj word. And then I'm going to say, use the method that gets me the word. And that is this getWord, right? So here we have obj word that getWord. Okay, that is that. Okay. And the next thing we're going to do is to invoke the next method. So we just invoked the getWord. Now we're going to invoke the method that does get the first letter. So let's output a message saying the first letter. Okay, so the first letter of the word is, right? So the first letter of the word is. And then we're going to use our method. So we're going to say obj word, and we want to use the method that gets me the first letter. It's really this one, right? And then, so let's actually test this out. Let's see if this actually works. So we're going to enter a word. Let's enter, let's say hello. Press the enter key. So it says you entered hello. That is the result of this. And the next is saying the first letter of the word is H, right? So that is the result of this. Okay, so let's break a line here. So I'm going to use a \n. That's going to make it much better. So let's say hello. And notice now it's saying you entered the word hello, and the first letter of the word is H. Okay, so let's continue invoking the rest of the methods. The next method is get the last letter. Okay, so it's very similar to this, except that we're using a different method. So it's going to be the last letter of the word is obj dot. Again, you don't have to worry about spelling it because all you do is just select it from here. So get the last letter. That's going to get me the last letter of the string. Okay, and so what's this error? This is actually remove. I want to get the last letter, not remove. So get last letter. Okay, let's test that out. So the word is hello, and when we press the enter key, this gets me the first letter, which is H, and the last letter is O, right? So that's because this method does give me the last letter. Now let's invoke the next method, and the next method is to remove, right? So let's do that. So to do that, so it's obj word. This is a method that does not return anything, so all it does is execute a certain task. So we're going to say remove first letter. So after this task has been executed, let's print now the word, and let's see how the word looks like after the removal of the first letter. So here I'm going to say the word without the first letter, right? And that's going to be getWord, right? So we want to get the word and see how the word really looks like now. So run it again. The word is hello. So actually I need a \n here just so we can break a line. Okay, so the word is hello. So notice now it says that the first letter is H, the last letter is O. However, the word without the first letter is LO, right? So H is gone, right? Because we removed that H, okay? We removed the H because we executed this instruction. This instruction will invoke the method removeFirstLetter, which is going to remove the first letter. This is what it does. Okay, let's invoke the next method, that is remove the last letter. So we're going to obj word dot, and that is remove last letter. Okay, and then we're going to print the word now after that removal. So the word without the last letter, and then we're going to say obj.getWord because that's simply going to get me the word. Okay, let's run it. And the word is hello, and I got H as my first letter, O is the last letter, LO as the word without the first letter. And then because this is my new word now, I'm going to remove the last letter, which is O. And that's what this did. So it's without the last letter. It gives me ELL. Okay. So this is this is the answer to this practice assignment, which is asking us to create a class, instantiate that class here, and invoking all the methods that that class has. So these are all the methods invoked through the objects. Okay. All right. So in the next video, I'm going to give you another practice of classes and objects topic. All right. See you in the next one.